Whoever organized this tournament is so out of touch of TFT and the whole TFT scene. Alright, let's talk about the Cloud9 tournament. If you don't care about competitive TFT and you're just looking for like a TFT guide that you normally see on my channel, just close this video. I'll see you guys on Friday for the meta snapshot, because this video will be solely focused on the competitive state of teamfight tactics. TFT tournaments have been some of the most sloppily run compared to every other game I've ever played. I remember playing in some Warcraft 3 tournaments in the early 2000s run by people in their parents' basement, and those were run better than this one. Starting with the Team Liquid tournament, we had an open tournament with limited signups, and none of the high-tier players could actually sign up for the tournament. You could say that that's just a first-come, first-served basis, but that's not even the biggest issue there. One thing they also did was mess up the seeding by seeding all the top challenger players into the same bracket, and so they all faced each other in the first round, and half of them were out right away. They had to go ahead and cancel that week. And the fact that no tournament organizer from one of the biggest esports organizations of our time can even catch that mistake before hosting a tournament, it's really just a shame on the state of how much people actually care about competitive TFT. And I obviously care a lot. I make a lot of content for TFT. I love watching high-level TFT, and while I might not be one of the players playing in that, I love seeing the best play against the best, regardless of what event it is. And when you have stuff like that, it just looks super unprofessional. People are not going to take the game seriously, and we're not going to see the best players play against each other in the finals of the World Championship, which probably should happen, right? Because it's a World Championship. But we're not here to talk about the Team Liquid tournament. Let's talk about the Cloud9 tournament. I just realized, guys, Cloud9, Team Liquid, those are literally two of the biggest organizations in North America in terms of esports. So let's keep that in mind as we move on in this video, as they are also backed by one of the biggest gaming companies in the world, which is Riot Games, who created Teamfight Tactics, as you all know already. And events like these show that professionalism in esports is pretty much still in its prenatal phases. I thought that they were more advanced. I honestly just expected more out of these organizers, and maybe that's my fault for having high expectations. But first, let's talk about the format of this Cloud9 tournament. So keep in mind, Riot announced the ways to qualify for the World Championships for North America, and even though like North America is combined with OCE and there are only 2 slots for both of these regions, whereas a lot of other regions get a lot more slots compared to their amount of players in their game. That's not the topic of this video, but let's scroll down here. So you could either qualify through ladder or qualify through a tournament, such as the Team Liquid or Cloud9 tournament. Both of these give 4 slots total, so winning these tournaments is pretty important. So why the hell is this an invitational? I'm on Cloud9's site right now, and the tournament will consist of 32 participants, 12 of which will be directly invited to compete. The remaining 20 will be decided by standings in the Challenger ladder. Starting May 27th, we'll get into this other part later. There's a whole nother issue here. So let's talk about the invites. As soon as I read this, I tweeted out my concerns. I said, I'm not sure why there's so many invite slots. After maybe like 5 people, the clout falls off dramatically in North America. The very strong pro players are already good enough to qualify through points. Makes you wonder who the other invites are going to be for this tournament. And let's be real, like Cloud9 can invite whoever they want to the tournament. It's their tournament, right? But like if you want to promote the game of teamfight tactics and you want to make it bigger, I completely get bringing in very popular players. It improves the viewership, makes people take the game more seriously because of the viewership, and overall I think it's a great thing because then maybe more people play teamfight tactics. However, this tournament is for the World Championship. It's not just a sidebar tournament or like a for fun tournament. So why do we have invites at all? But regardless of that, it's still fine as long as they invite competent and deserving players. And honestly, I don't mind them inviting super popular players to this because, again, they'll make more people play TFT, they'll give the game more reach to newer audiences, and overall, I think that's a very good thing for TFT going into the future. Because again, this is just the first World Finals. Hopefully there will be many more if this game actually catches on. Yeah, I don't mind more people playing the game, and it's just one tournament, right? So if they invite 12 super popular players, that'd be super cool. A lot more people will play the game, and we'll all be happy from there. But let's go into that process. So I'm looking at the qualified players here, and every single player, they qualified based on the criteria that Cloud9 put out, and we'll get into that later. So they're all deserving of a spot here, obviously, because they literally qualified from being good at the game. And since, again, this is for the World Championship, that makes complete sense. Now let's take a look at the invites, and let me preface this. I'm not making this video because I'm salty that I didn't get invited. I don't think I should be invited at all. This is a competitive tournament, and if you can't get above like 1,000 LP consistently, you probably shouldn't be playing in this. I'm also not Scara with like 5,000 concurrent viewers every time I turn on my stream, so this is not me begging for an invite. But I just want to get that clear because, again, I take the game casually and I play 3 days a week pretty much, maybe 4 sometimes if I have extra time during the week. And if I'm not playing 7 days a week, I don't deserve to even be considered for a spot for this World Championship. And keep in mind, an account I play on my stream, I only play on the weekends, and I got to Grandmaster 520 LP, so let's just keep that in mind. You'll see why this is important later. And again, me making this video is probably going to have a negative effect on my channel because I'm going to be calling out tournament organizers, I'm going to be calling out why certain players shouldn't be invited, and that might cause some hate within the community, but I know what it's like to be a competitive player back when I played Hearthstone, and invites that aren't really deserving of invites really hurts the competitive scene because there are tons of players who try really hard. They're one of the best in their field, but maybe on the ladder qualifications, instead of being in the top 20, which is what you needed to be, maybe they're 21 through 30, and maybe they make a lot of content as well. Maybe they're a lot more popular than some of these other players too. And frankly, even though I've heard of some of these players, a lot of them I don't think have the clout that deems an invite or the skill required to actually compete against the best players in North America. There are a ton of other players that I know of that, again, I'm not even friends with those players, so it's not me saying like, oh, my friend should have been invited. Like, because first you guys will probably think like, oh, maybe I thought I should be invited. That's not the case. And no, it's not the case of, oh, my friend should have been invited, because frankly, I'm not that close with other people in TFTs. And I just see injustice where I see it, and I see spots being taken away from better players or more popular players, or a combination of both better and popular, which shouldn't really happen in my opinion. Again, I fully understand it's Cloud9's tournament. They can invite whoever they want, but this is for the World Championship, and there are only 2 tournaments right now, the Team Liquid tournament and the Cloud9 tournament, that actually have seeds directly into the North American qualifier. And they should be taking this more seriously because whoever organized this tournament is so out of touch of TFT and the whole TFT scene. Because again, these players, the ones that I think should have been invited that weren't, they can't call out tournament organizers, because if they do that, they're not going to be invited to other tournaments because no one's going to want people who just trash talk all day. Like, I don't really think I'm trash talking, but some people might view it as such. And since I'm in a position where I don't care if I'm invited to TFT tournaments, I'm here to try to speak up for those players and to try to get this game into a more competitive state, because whenever I watch an esports tournament, I either want to watch my favorite player or I want to watch the best play against the best. And frankly, with this invite list, that doesn't really do either of that. In fact, if like I got invited over one of these players, I don't really think I should be there because I'm not as big as some of these other names and I'm not as good as some of these other players. So let's get into the invite list, and then we'll talk more about the tournament format, the transparency on the qualification process for all the qualified people here, and we'll go from there. So there's a way to see who the best players are in terms of consistency and highest strength on like a certain patch. So in the qualification process for the World Championship, you get something called ladder points, and every week players have to play at least 10 games, and whatever place they're in, whether it's 1st or 10th, I believe points go up to 300. That'll be how many points they gain for the week. And I think it's like a 2-month process where players' points will be recorded. And from there, you'll be able to know who's actually good at the game and who's not good at the game. And Riot holds a spreadsheet here, which is, I don't know how often this is updated because it says July 1st here, but the update before that was, I think, like June 1st, and it was only really updated recently for the Cloud9 tournament, I'm assuming, just for more transparency. But from here, we could see who the best players are based on how many points they have, and let's go and type in some of the invites and see how well they did. Actually, before that, let's talk about players that I think deserve the invite. Let's go into popular names you already know on the invite list, and we'll just get them out of the way because, like, I'm not flaming them. It's like, they're very popular, and yes, they should be invited so that the viewership is higher for the TFT tournament. That's Becca, Emily, St. Vicious, probably esports. This one's a little borderline, but I'll let it slide just because the rest of the list, there's some much more questionable things. After that, like, you guys might not know some of these players, and that's no flame to them. They're just not as popular as these 4 these top 4 because these top 4 are super, super popular. But let's get into why I think this. So let's start with Becca. 16 or 1700 concurrent viewers on average whenever she turns on her stream. That's one of the highest in all of Twitch, one of the highest in TFT. So that's a no-brainer to invite her. She's also like in Masters, so that's pretty good too. It could be higher, don't get me wrong. Like hopefully she'd be Grandmaster, but like again, she pulls so much viewership on Twitch that it really doesn't matter what her rank is. For example, we don't see Skara on the list. I'm assuming Skara gave up his spot because he didn't want to take up a slot from someone who really wants to make their career out of this. Much respect for him for that if that was the case. Maybe he was too busy, I'm not too sure. I'm willing to bet like a lot of money if he wanted an invite to this tournament, he'd probably get one. But he probably passed his spot on to someone else, so huge respect for that if that is the case. But let's keep looking into the players. So after Becca, we have St. Vicious. Again, St. Vicious, 1,300 average viewers, and also he is Challenger. He has 900 LP right now, and I'd say anything above like 1,000 LP, it's like, yeah, those guys should be competing against the best in the world. But I mean, he's really close, right? 900. It's really hard to get to 1,000 LP. Like he's top 35 on North America right now. The qualifications were for top 20, and like, yeah, he completely deserves it. Let's go on to the next person, Emily Wang. She averages 500 viewers on Twitch, which is actually quite a lot. It is lower than the other people, but like if we look at this, it's like top 0.06% of Twitch. That's a lot of viewers, so I'm completely okay with that. She's Masters right now and 430 LP and 369th place. So that one's fine too, I think. I don't think anything weird's going on there. Next up, we have Esports Law. He has a bunch of Twitter followers. He's known in the esports world for, I don't know too much about him, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I think he was one of the first people who started exploring the legal aspects of esports, so I guess, yeah, sure, invite him. Like, he doesn't stream or anything, but he's got like a pretty big following, at least on Twitter. Like 21,000 followers, that's a lot on Twitter. So yeah, that one I understand. He's a Grandmaster on TFT as well. This account's higher right now. It's called Esports Law Junior. I'm assuming this is him. There's another account called Esports Law, which is in Diamond before, but like he's been in Grandmasters in Set 1 and Set 2. So this one I can understand. So after that, those are like the pretty big popular names that you guys have probably seen before. So I think they all deserve an invite because again, I want the game to grow. So the more viewership that goes into the Cloud9 tournament, the better it is for TFT moving on into the future. Now let's get into the rest of the people here. So I'm not really sure what the invitational criteria was for the Cloud9 organizer. Again, this is why I think the Cloud9 organizer is really out of touch with teamfight tactics. And if you want to go ahead and clear this up with me, feel free to send me a DM anywhere on any platform, and I'd be really glad to discuss this with you because I just want to see the perspective more from your end as well. But let's go into the rest of the players. So here I have the LOL chess and the Twitch tracker to see how many viewerships people get and see what rank they are. So Aegon, 900 LP, Challenger, GM, Challenger, Challenger. I mean, top 47. If we look at the points list for the Riot tournament, which is here, Aegon is like one of the highest. So yeah, he deserves an invite because he probably was like 21st place on the list, maybe. I have no idea. We'll get into this whole cycle and explain it later, but essentially like this spreadsheet says who is good and he is on the top of the list. So yeah, he deserves the invite. He gets good viewership too, 150. Not the best. Like obviously anything under maybe like 500 or 1,000 views doesn't really quite have the same pull as someone with like 100, even though having 100 viewers is a lot compared to the rest of the Twitch population. If he was invited because of his clout, I don't think that's the case. He's invited because he's really good at the game, and I completely agree with that. Nature's BF, I think he kind of like, I think he hasn't played recently because he's Diamond 2 on his account right now, but I know in Set 1 and Set 2, he was always one of the top players, always top 10. Look at this. He finished 8th in Set 2. Let's see what he did in Set 1. He finished 6th in Set 1. So yeah, this guy's very good. So inviting him, yeah, no brainer. Maybe he had some personal life going on during Set 3.5 so far, so he hasn't been able to play that much. Yeah, he also like, yeah, he hasn't streamed recently, so his numbers are a little lower than what they normally were, but I think he got like, when TFT came out, when he was like really good, he had 238 one month, then it dropped down a bit. But like again, he's not being invited because of Cloud. He's invited because he's really good at the game. He was one of the best players in set 1 and set 2. So that one I completely understand. Next up, we have C9 Crone, and keep in mind he's part of Cloud9, but I don't think that's why they invited him. They invited him because he is really good. 800 LP, 70th place, finished challenger in 2 sets. Let's see how he finished in set 1, 79. And I've seen his name in the top 10 a lot, so it's not like, even though he's like 70th right now, like I've seen him linger around like the top 10, top 25 very, very often, so I completely get this invite too. Let's take a look at how many points he has. He has 140 points, and I know this is hard to read because they don't have the placements on the side, so I'm gonna go ahead and I put this into an Excel spreadsheet, and if we look for him here, he is in 39th place, so that's very close to top 20, in my opinion at least. So yeah, it makes sense that he got an invite. So let's close out of him. He averages like 50 viewers, which is not a lot, but like he's not invited because of his clout. He's invited because he's good at the game. And are there people better? Like, yeah, there are, but like he meets like anyone within like maybe the top 75 or top 100. I think they deserve like an invite if they are consistently challenger and maybe have like a small Twitch following. Yeah, that makes complete sense. So next, let's go up to Thien. Okay, so right now he's 468 LP with 300 games played. He's master, so why are we inviting a master player? Last season he was 31st place, which is good. It's good, but then he finished GM both in set 1 and set 2. But again, he's like masters right now. Let's see how many points he has. Let's go here. DN. Wow, he's got 55 points, and again, I have the placements in an Excel spreadsheet that I copy pasted. Let's look him up. He is in 151st place. So this is pretty 151st place. That's like pretty far away, right? Yeah, he's only got ladder points from 3 different weeks. So is he really like that great of a player? I mean, he's good. He got to 1,000 LP in set 3, but doesn't seem like it's that consistent because GM set 2, GM set 1. So historically, like he hasn't been a top dominant player. And again, this is no flame to him. If I got invited to the tournament, I wouldn't say no, even if I didn't think I was deserving of it. But like he's not a top player compared to all the other people on this list up here who have like 200 plus points, you know? And a lot of these were qualified, but some of them were not. For example, like this guy, I don't know who this guy is, and this guy, like all these players, like they're 200 points and up, which is like 4 times the amount of point as Thien has, and they didn't get an invite. That's kind of weird, but maybe he's super popular and that's why he got invited. Let's take a look at that. So he averages 23 viewers. Okay. I don't think that is that big of a viewership. Am I wrong in thinking that? I mean, I stream on the weekends. Let's see how many I have. Like, he streams 65 hours a week. This is per week, right? Yeah, it's per week. Let's look at me. I literally stream for like 4 hours a day on the weekends, twitch.tv/bunnymuffins.lol, and I have the same viewership as him. Like, I'm not big. I shouldn't be invited to these because of like my popularity, which I'm not. So it's like, why is this guy getting an invite? There are much better players and much more popular players, which I'll get into later, which I do think were more deserving. But again, I don't blame him. If I get invited to stuff, I'm gonna take it right away. Is this guy like known a lot in like other games from before or something like that? But even then, it's like he does have like 11,000 followers, but that's not like something completely insane, you know? But maybe it's like he could be a borderline invite, I guess. But again, he's got like 55 points, and there are a ton of other streamers with like 100 plus points, 150 plus points, 200 plus points. Next up, let's look at NA. So I mean, he's been challenger every set. I see him a ton in the top 10 all the time. Like, he's not even playing much this set. He has 78 games played this set, and he's at top 100. Like, yeah, he deserves a spot. Let's check out his other seasons. Set 1, 62nd. Set 2, 26. Set 3, 37th. So, yeah, I think he's deserving of an invite. He's literally high challenger every set. And again, there's a difference between low challenger and high challenger. And he's high challenger every set. So, I think he's completely deserving of an invite. So it really doesn't matter what his stream is. And I think on his stream, he averages like 67 viewers. So it's not that much, but like it's better than Thien. So it's like, I think he deserves an invite just because he's a lot better and slightly more popular. So next, let's look up the next person, which is Jinx JK. Jinx, he's been Challenger 2 sets. Right now, he's Master 361 LP. He averages 84 viewers, which is much higher than some of the other ones we're going to look at here. But I guess this one could be a borderline invite. I mean, 3,000 followers. Let's see what he was in set 3. So he finished 3rd in set 3. So yeah, I think he's deserving of an invite. If you're able to finish a set in like top 10, and finishing a set's different from just like peaking or random time during a set in top 10, because at the end of the set, everyone's really trying hard to get this final rank. And yeah, if he's able to get 3rd, I think like he deserves an invite. Are there other players that are better than him? Sure, but like, I mean, he did it once. I'm sure this invite I can understand. This one might be like more borderline than some of the other players, but like I could kind of understand this one. I wish he was like more consistent throughout all the sets. Let's see how many points he has. He has 65 points. So I'm assuming all these points are from set 3 and none of them are from 3.5. A little unfortunate. Like, I wish he had higher points, and a lot of other players have higher points. But like, if you're able to finish top 3 at the end of a set, I think it's like justifiable or arguable as like a tournament organizer. It is borderline, but like whatever. So next up we have KCI. So KCI challenger right now, 86th place. Let's look at his set 3. Challenger 73rd place. Let's see how many points he has. Control F, KCI. KCI has 115 points. So it's like, yeah, he's got above 100 points. I wish it was higher. I wish the threshold was maybe 200 or 150 points and above, but like, at least he has above 100. And what place is that? That is 64th place. So yeah, I can get it. He's top 64 in NA right now. Like, he might be good enough, but does he create any content for TFT? Let's type in KCI on Twitch Tracker. I don't see any results. I've asked a lot of other players if anyone knew who he was, and no one knows who he is. So let's go ahead and search on Google. KCI. We get a medical device company. Okay, whatever. Let's do KCI TFT. We only get his LOL chest, and we get nothing else. These are all just profile lookups for him. And let's lastly look up KCI Twitch. And there's like nothing here that's obviously him. I checked out all these channels and none of them really seemed like a TFT player, so I don't think he streams at all. So even though he's good at the game, is he amazing at the game? No, he's not, because there are this whole other list of players that are better than him. There are a lot of players with more points than him that didn't get invited. Does he make a lot of content? No, we just looked him up and we saw nothing. Does someone know who he is? Is he like popular from a different game? Does he use like a different alias? If you do, like, let me know down in the comments. And if he's making a lot of TFT content, if he has a lot of followers, then my apologies, KCI, but I really don't see you anywhere. And none of the other players I've talked to, which I've talked to a few, have heard of you at all. So, and yes, you are good at this game. You're much better than me at this game, but we're not trying to be better than me at this game. You're trying to compete for the world championship here. And there are a ton of other players who are much better than you. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's just the fact, just based on these point totals. And like, you're not rank 1, you're like rank 73 in set 3. And in this current set, you are rank 86. So like with 400 games played. So again, it's like, you're good at the game, but are you invite worthy for the Cloud9 tournament over a lot of these other players? I don't think so. And I think like a lot of the players that I'm calling out right now, I think they would be delusional if they think that they deserve the invite slot over some of the other people I'm going to be mentioning later. So last person on the invite list, that's Primal. Wow, Masters. So if he's Masters, like he hit Challenger before, 255 games played right now. Let's see how many points he has. He has 15 points. Let me go to my Google spreadsheet or my Excel spreadsheet where I copy pasted so I could put the placements on the side, and let's look that guy up. That's Primal. That is 400th place, 407th. Is that close to 20th? I guess if you multiply 20 by 20, you get to 400. So in that way, I guess it is close. But is that deserving of like an invite to one of the biggest tournaments that gives you like a free like dice roll to Worlds? I don't really think so, but maybe he's super popular because I have seen his name before, but like, have I known him as a big name? No, I have not. He gets 37 followers or average viewers on Twitch. Maybe he's got a ton of followers. He has 3,000 followers. That's not a lot at all. I just don't see any justification for him getting an invite. So now that we've looked at all the players, let me go back to the invite list just to sum it up. We have this over here. So deserves. A little borderline compared to everyone else, but I think he deserves it. Just because these three are just like so out there. I don't know what word to use to describe it, but I made a handy sheet, which we can all refer to, which compares the ladder points of everyone. So we have like all the qualified players here: 290 points, 320, 340, 375, 265, 345, 375, 335. Like a lot of big numbers here, right? I'm not sure how this guy did it, but we'll get into that later. I couldn't find this guy at all on the ladder snapshots, so maybe he goes under a different name that I just don't know of. But I'm sure like Cloud9 did their due diligence in finding the correct people on getting who qualified or not, right? Though some of these point totals do seem a little low, but they use a different like ranking system than what Riot uses. So we'll get into that later. Let's do a test, for example. Let's see if these guys are popular and if they're skillful. So skillful probably means like able to hit top 10 anytime they want. Able to keep top 100 on a consistent basis, or like 1,000 LP on a consistent basis. Popularity, maybe like 500, 1,000 plus concurrent viewership, maybe like a lot of followers on a different platform. And if we look at this, like, yes. No. So based off of that, we could just disregard the top four, right? Because they qualified based on popularity, or got invited based on popularity. So let's look into the skill. Aegon, we said yes. Natures, we said yes. Crone, we said yes. Thien, probably no. Like NA, yes. Jinx JK, I'll put that as a maybe to yes. Like, I'll just put yes. That's Primal. No, he's got 15 points. KCI, yeah, he's like, I guess he does, but like he's like negative points in the popularity scale, right? So let's go over examples of people on the TFT leaderboards, because it's not hard to find people to invite to this tournament. There's literally a list that shows you all the top players. So you just have to look at this list and either invite them or see who barely didn't make it, who also like does a bunch of TFT content because maybe you want to promote the game, or they have a following on a different platform. So one thing I noticed, this guy, he is in like the top 10 of points, and he didn't get qualified through the point qualification process. That's weird, right? I think all these guys qualified, and the next one would be 2418. Is this THG Spencer? I have no idea. Maybe it is. If it is, then that's him. But Treebeard Twitch TV. So this guy has 215 points. and he averages 200 viewers, so that's much higher than some of the other invites. He also has got 17,000 followers on Twitch. So why the hell was this guy not invited when he's literally one of the best players? He streams TFT, and he gets a lot of viewers. Like, he doesn't get 500 plus, but he gets 200. Like, he's much higher than the other players. Again, I'm not friends with this guy. I've never even heard of him until now, but like, he probably deserves an invite over those other people. Octagonal, I don't really know who these guys are, these three here. They're probably just good players, but they all have 200 plus points. So if you compare them to KCI, like, KCI's got half the amount of points that they have, and it's not like in the recent weeks he's been like first place on ladder, right? So there's really no reason to invite him. It's like, they're just much better options. Like H2211, he streams a bunch too. He gets a bunch of viewers. Let's see who else. And again, sorry if I don't recognize you. Oh man, this guy literally has 2 accounts. What? He's got one account with 280 points, and then he's got another account with 140 points, and he doesn't even play on it. Like, bro, how is this guy not being invited? Again, I don't know who this person is. I saw him complain a bit about the invites on Twitter, but I honestly had no idea who he was until like now, or how good he was. But yeah, all these players, they're so much better than KCI, right? Am I wrong in thinking that? So one name I do recognize is Twitch Raditz, and he's very good, right? He's got 125 points, and it's like, maybe he doesn't deserve the invite because he is maybe like top 50 instead of top like 30 or something, right? But let's take a look at his channel. He gets 250 average viewers. That is much more than 33 or 25 like what this guy and this guy get, right? It's a lot more. It's literally 10 times more. So he's literally better than them, and he has a bigger following. So it's like, why is this guy not getting invited? So that's 2 people that I've pointed out so far, like Raditz and Treebeard, that have both more popularity and more skill than some of these invites. And in terms of like KCI, why he's invited, like Namtam and like all these other players, I'm not gonna say their names because they're a little weird, but like, they're all much better than him. They literally have double his points. How many points did KCI have? He has 100 points. They have 200 points. So why are they not getting invited? They could have also done like an interesting invite by inviting Yukong, which I made a video on, because he held rank 1 for like a couple of days, and he's like the only mobile player to play the game at a high level, so maybe he'd be pretty good. Let's see where he's at. So he is a little lower on the list. He's at 90 points, but like, at least he finished like second once, you know, or like he held first place for a couple of days. And like, it's interesting that he's the only mobile player, so if you want to take like the cool approach, maybe inviting him would be pretty cool to me. So there are like a lot of different options, and the fact that BN, that's Primal, and KCI got invites, it's kind of hilarious and makes the tournament kind of like a joke, right? Because how did they even get these invites? What criteria did the Cloud9 organizer use to identify these people? Because it's not hard to identify it. Like, you literally have a list of the top players here. You just need to look up their Twitch, Twitter, Instagram accounts, whatever, to see if they're popular or not. But let's go into the transparency of the qualifiers. So we're back here. So they made an update to their original like announcement post. And on June 10th, they said Cloud9's competitive cycle starts Tuesday, May 26th. So this is different from the Riot one, and that's very important. Players will have 1 week to climb until the first weekly snapshot, which is on June 2nd. And there will be 5 competitive weeks for that, ending on June 30th, with each competitive week ending on 11:59 Pacific time on Tuesday. And players have to play 10 minimum games to earn points for that week. And after the 5 competitive weeks, players will have their week with the lowest points earned dropped for a total of 4 counted weeks of ladder play. The top point earners will earn their seat and will qualify. So there's a note here. Cycle 4 is where it starts because Riot started collecting points way before May 22nd or May 26th. So only Cycle 4 is counted. And scores may take up to 5 days. And they also said that there are 5 competitive weeks, so there should be 5 instances of points. Let's take a look at the Riot spreadsheet. So we look here, Cycle 4, they show points. Cycle 5, that's 2 weeks. Cycle 6, 3 weeks. Cycle 7, 4 weeks. Where's the 5th week? Cycle 8 should be the June 30th one. So I laid this out here in case you want easier viewing. So they said that the first point total would end on June 2nd. So June 2nd, June 9th, June 16th, June 23rd is cycle 7, and June 30th is cycle 8, but they don't even post the results. So why is there no like transparency on like who got invited? Because some of the other people, like, they only had like 100 points. So were they really higher than some of these other players? Like, again, Namtom, he, starting from cycle 4, he got 19th place, 187th, 41st, and 14th place. Does that really not qualify him over, let's see, Simple Plan, who didn't even get 10 games in these 2 weeks? I don't really know. This isn't to throw shade at Simple Plan, but like it's just an example of like Riot's spreadsheet is not very accurate, and I wonder what Cloud9 used, because they say they use their spreadsheet, but if the source material isn't accurate at all, then what is the point of even having? But yeah, I just wish that the cycle 8 was actually updated on the Riot side, because it's really a shame if us as viewers can't even figure out if whoever they say qualified actually qualified. And again, they're all good players, because I'm sure that they did finish highly on cycle 4 through 8, but we don't even know the cycle 8 results. So we just gotta give Cloud9 the benefit of the doubt. And since they've run this tournament so beautifully already, is that a fair thing to do? I don't know. But next up, let's go into the format of this tournament. Pretty much, competitors will be seeded into 4 8-player groups, top 4 from each group advancing to the semifinal. And just a note, there are 20 qualified and 12 invites, so it's like there are 3 invites in each group, so like no group is full of only invite players, so like, because those would be probably easier, but they don't do that, so it's like balanced in that sense. So props to C9, they did one thing correctly so far. But let's look at the format. So Group A plays all their games on one day. Group B plays all their games on one day. Group C and D do the same thing. Why are people playing all their games on one day? We all know TFT has a lot of variance, and if you're not good on a certain patch, and again, some people, they get rank 1 only on one patch and then are never seen again. This happens so often. You get this guy randomly at rank 1, and he was like master or like even diamond 1 before, and like they're just really good on this one patch. They get to rank 1 and then they disappear off the face of the earth, never to be heard from again, because they were only good on one patch and they're not good at the game. So having all the games played on one day is kind of weird to me, just because of that. Because you just have to get lucky on that day and pray that you're good on that patch, which I don't think represents the best TFT player. Maybe they could have done, like, had a 2-group cycle, so maybe Group A plays 2 games this day, Group B plays 2 games this day, and then the next week, Group A and B played 2 games on 2 days as well. That would be one interesting way to do it. And then have C and D do the same thing on like the 9th and the 16th. Then have the semifinal and split that up as well. And then the final, maybe have it a 2-day event instead of a 1-day event, having the first day on 1 week and the other day on a second week. And this was highlighted by Mismatched Socks, and Mismatched Socks, he's one of the best players in NA. If you look at any tier list of NA players made by other top players, he is pretty much always first or second on that list. So every single player highly respects him. He's probably one of the best players in North America, like if not the best. And he got 8th in the tournament because it was all played on one day. And he says that TFT qualifiers should never be played on patch day. And well, I do disagree a little bit, because I think learning a patch is a big skill in teamfight tactics, but having all the games and being able to be disqualified on one day in such a small tournament, small as in like the amount of players, is completely ridiculous, right? Because if you have a bad day, you're just out. If you don't understand a patch due to like, and that's due to RNG, right? Like people are just better naturally on certain patches and worse on others. That's just unlucky, and you get knocked out from there. It doesn't show any of the consistency of players by having all the games played on one day and being able to be eliminated in one day. And he did this study, and he looked at the amount of number of games each player had played on the patch, and turns out the person who played the most got first, and all the people who played games got top 4. The only person who didn't qualify was one of the invited players, which She is weaker than the other players. I don't think anyone can argue otherwise. And that's no flame to her. She's in Grandmaster, and like, that's fine. She's just not as good as the top 1 players. Understandable. Not many people are. So pretty much everyone who just played on that day got to win. And you could say like, oh, why didn't these people play on the patch? Because like there's a tournament going on, you better practice for it, right? But like this patch was so big, every comp that was good in the last patch got nerfed, and every champion that was bad on last patch got buffed. And what day was this? Happened yesterday. What day was that? That was a Wednesday. You know, people have to like work and stuff on Wednesday, right? Like, how is he supposed to practice for the tournament if such a huge patch happens and then like he doesn't have time to practice because he has other obligations? So if you're gonna make a 1-day event, make it on like a Sunday, make it on like a Saturday. Then people are able to properly prepare for the tournament. Because again, this was one of the biggest patches we've seen in a while in terms of changing the meta. And no one's going to have a good grasp of it. So whoever plays the most on that day is probably going to be the best on that patch. And that doesn't really make sense. And Riot releases their patch schedule on their website throughout the entire year. So I know when every patch drops through December 9th. And what is Cloud9? They're mainly known for their League of Legends team. Team Liquid is one of the top teams in LCS. I'm sure they know about the patch cycles, so they should know that this is posted somewhere, and maybe don't put a tournament on the day of a patch. And this patch was especially strange because there was even a hotfix during this patch. So we had 2 patches in 1 day. Players cannot prepare properly for the tournament, and it's a shame because we won't get to see players at their full potential. Instead, we'll just see a bunch of clown fiestas, which maybe that's what people want to see. I have no idea. Personally, I don't want to do that, but I'd rather see the best players play their best and see who's going to win after that. Yeah, just to sum up, the invites were so suspect. I really wonder how some of these players got the invites. It's not their fault. Like, again, if you get invited to a tournament, say yes to it. Nothing against that, but like the C9 organizer, like, how did he find these players? What were the criteria? I wish there's some transparency around that. And again, I know it's their tournament, but like they can invite whoever they want. But this is for the World Championship, and this is one of 2 tournaments which allows people to qualify for spots in the North American qualifier. And because it's that high stakes, you need to at least have some sort of competitive integrity. I don't know if that's the right word, but you guys know what I'm getting at for this tournament. Again, I want to reiterate this because I don't want people going into my comment section saying like, oh, like you're just salty you didn't get an invite. I should not be invited to this. I'm like, I used to be Challenger, sure. I have a Grandmaster account on my weekend account, which is higher than some of these players on this list. Like literally the account I play on the weekends is higher. Like I don't deserve to be in this tournament. And I'm pretty much making this video because there are a lot of other deserving people, which I pointed out in the video. And I'm pretty much making this video to call out the tournament organizers for not seeing other people who are much more deserving than these players that they invited to be invited to the tournament, because they're much better than these players. They actually have a chance of competing against the best of the best, and they have a bigger platform than some of these other invites. So there's just literally no logic for these invites. Like, are they friends with the tournament organizers? That brings these questions up. I'm not saying they are or aren't, but when you do the invites like this, it raises these questions. And I just hope that in one of the few North American tournaments where it determines who qualifies for the World Championship, you're inviting the best of the best, or you're promoting the game by inviting very popular players. And again, like Masters, Grandmasters, he's Masters now, but like, I mean, he was Challenger before, but he's Masters now. I might be missing another one. Literally, the account I play on the weekends is higher than Masters. Like, these guys, it's like, if I was invited to this tournament, it's the same thing as like me playing against like platinum players. Like I'd destroy platinum players, but like I'd get destroyed by all these like top 10 players, you know? It's like, it's just common sense. And people are delusional if they actually think that some of the people who got invited can actually compete against the best of the best. Yeah, that's it for today. Like, so many issues. Let's just sum it up quickly. The format is terrible. The invitational format for a competitive tournament is terrible. The invites that they actually sent out are pretty questionable. And the cadence or timing of the tournament was pretty bad considering we had 2 patches on a day of a tournament. and players only have 1 day to play to get knocked out. And this really makes me wonder how in touch with the scene the C9 organizers are with the teamfight tactics scene. And again, the biggest player in the TFT scene is K3 Soju, who's on Cloud9. So they have someone they could ask to see, like, oh, what's going on in the TFT scene. Like, literally, the biggest streamer who's like a pro player is Soju. He gets like 5,000 viewers now on average, and he is always top 10. Like, it's not like they can't ask someone of like, oh, who do you think is like really good, deserving of an invite, like trying really hard, making a lot of content for TFT as well, is trying to grow his following. Like, they have someone to ask. Like, it's not like it's some like 50-year-old guy who's just like who has never played TFT before, who like doesn't have anyone to ask of like, oh, who should I probably invite for this tournament? Like, they literally are probably one of the more well-known teams in teamfight tactics because of like some of their players, and it just doesn't make sense how poorly they ran this tournament. So, I mean, it's still going on. They still have a couple weeks to redeem themselves. May the best player win.